Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Delora, are you ready for an international vacation?
Ciao, Bella!
Indeed. We are headed to Italy, girl, because as we talked about last week, we are recapping the White Lotus Season 2. If you guys are fans, you know Season 1 was in Maui, and now for Season 2, we're headed to Sicily. All right, Delora, this show premiered back October 30th, 2022 on HBO, 7-hour-longish episodes, and it has already officially been renewed for a third season. Apparently, it's going to be in Asia. I've read Thailand. So we'll see how that next adventure goes. But
yes, Thailand.
I think Italy was a fun choice because you and I were just saying that we got to go IRL because
cannot wait till I go. It gorgeous. I mean, honestly,
gorgeous.
The B-roll alone was like sold. Where is this exactly? Where are the hotels?
Minus all of the shenanigans, I will go to the White Lotus any day. Okay. Quick summary. An all-star cast head to a resort and unleash their worst, most privileged impulses. Season 2, as we discussed, follows various guests in the White Lotus in Sicily over the span of a week. Created by Mike White. Cast: Aubrey Plaza as Harper, Theo James as Cameron, Will Sharp as Ethan, Megan Fahey as Daphne, Jennifer Coolidge as Tanya, John Grease as Greg, Haley Lou Richardson as Portia, Adam DeMarco as Albie, Michael Imperioli as Dominic, F. Murray Abraham as Bert, Simona Tabasco as Lucia, Beatrice Grano as Mia, Leo Waddell as Jack, Tom Hollander as Quentin, and Sabrina Imasiatore, hope I got that right, ma'am, as Valentina. Reviews. So for Season 2, Rotten Tomatoes critic score is 93%, audience score is 73%, and I could not find a distinction between Season 1 and Season 2, so let's just say overall for both, Google users gave this series an 81%. Delora, this has been nominated and won many an award. It is back in contention for Emmys for the next round of awards getting passed out.
Yes.
So
43 awards and nominations for White Lotus as a whole, which is quite impressive.
Do you agree with the critics on your grade? What are you giving the White Lotus Season 2?
So I had the privilege of watching Season 2 for this recap, and I did not watch Season 1. Here are all the things I really enjoyed. I thought the acting was phenomenal. The location was everything. However, in my personal opinion, things didn't start getting spicy until episode 5. And it felt like the buildup in some cases was absolutely worth it. However, it felt long a little bit at times. A lot of tension building, which, again, in some cases I appreciate, and others I'm like, fast forward.
You also got to watch it as a binge versus watching it week to week release, like those of us who watched it when it was airing. That tension build up when it was airing was everything.
Okay. Thank you for that perspective. Overall, my grade for White Lotus season 2 is a B.
I still do not have anything down for a grade for this because I was debating in my heart. I'm trying to give grades based off of my initial impression more so than sometimes my jaded second impression. Because, Delora, as you know, I had some technical difficulties with the Max app for this second watch. So to say that it
Yes.
tainted the experience for me is an understatement, right? But that first watch through, because I did watch the first season for me was interesting, but it wasn't like, oh, I can't wait for a second season. Like the first
Okay.
season still had a great cast, but it it didn't move me quite in the same way. Like it was a lot more about, these wealthy, white, rich people just kind of getting on your nerves and showing their ass with their privilege type thing more than this season. You're really getting into humanity in a different way, I guess is the best way to say it.
It's so funny that you say that because that's one thing that Michael White said that with this series, season 1 was about money and this season was about sex.
And that's
And
facts.
and I'm like, ooh, I see that.
That's facts. So in season one, you had a lot of comments and feelings about, again, that richness, that being upper class, and how those people operate and what they're like and what the trickle down is like on others from that privilege. In this season, it's definitely about, in my opinion, sex is power, and how do you
Mm,
wield it and how do people manipulate because of it type thing.
yeah.
So I just, like I said, I think it delved into humanity just a little bit differently. So I enjoyed this season more. Maybe I like sex more than money. I don't think so, but
Ain't that the question?
but I think I enjoyed the ride of it. Like I said, watching it week after week, I was riveted. Like, especially to your point, by episode like 5, you start to get this tone of like something dark is going on. By episode 6, it's like, oh shit. By episode 7, mind blown. Mind blown by the end. So I think based on my first impression, I want to give it like an A minus, because I really did enjoy the ride of season 2. So,
Okay. Another caveat on my grade, the season was spoiled for me for the big to do, right? So I knew that going in, but I did appreciate the build up to it because I have thoughts on that as well.
I'm so sorry it was spoiled for you, because that was one of the most shocking things about the finale for me.
Mm.
We won't get into it yet, guys. Spoiler alert. We're about to go ahead and to get into the good of the show. So sometimes we deviate from our usual formula and not necessarily go episode by episode. And this is one that, due to the uniqueness of the way the stories unfold, I would rather focus on the characters' journeys throughout the season than just go episode by episode. So, Laura, I want to start by talking about our couples, our 2 main couples, Harper and Ethan, and Daphne and Cameron. So these couples have come to the White Lotus on vacation together because the 2 guys, Ethan and Cameron, are old college roomies, right? Harper and Ethan are new money. They just got a windfall from his business ventures. And
Mm-hmm.
these 2 couples have decided to hang out, but they don't seem like they like each other off the bat. Like, you get a lot of tension, you get a lot of buildup of, polar opposites in their approaches to life and their thoughts. Daphne and Cameron, they don't even vote.
If that's not the most white woman thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Did you prefer one couple to the other when we first meet them?
You understand what I mean by that statement?
It's a
Like,
very privileged thought, because a lot of things you don't think have an impact on you directly. If they did, you will be more inclined to be involved.
and when it doesn't matter at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you're good either way. So it doesn't matter if I vote
But at least
anyway.
she said she thought she did. Cameron was the most flippant about it. Like, doesn't matter. Why vote? It doesn't matter. My money's good.
It reminded me of Wednesday and her werewolf friend, like the dark and the bubbly. Did I have a favorite couple off the bat? I did not. With Cameron and Daphne, I definitely felt the facade, the veneer quite quickly, frankly. He definitely came off as the quote unquote jock or alpha male who is only interested in what pleases him, whether that's getting that money or getting in those draws.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne is the quintessential I married probably a horrible man, but I have money and I am comfortable, and therefore he can do whatever he does off to the side as long as I'm good with my babies. When it came to Harper and Ethan, Ethan has my heart a little bit. I have a soft spot for nerdy men.
You weren't alone. The internets were lusting after Ethan when this season aired.
I needed him to have a better haircut though, but Ethan, again, he seemed like a sweet, smart guy who married a beautiful woman, but she just seemed overly critical. It's like, I understand complaining about the people, but it just seemed excessive. I will also say, watching this show, I was like, oh, great. Another show where no one's truly likable. Great.
That's life, isn't it?
I know, because no one's all good and no one's all bad.
Especially if you get to see people to the extent that these cameras are revealing. Like if we were in people's lives 24/7, I wouldn't even like myself if I was put on camera to this extent. I'd be like, oh God, that was a bad day. You did not need a camera rolling for that.
Touche. So no, I didn't have a favorite couple, although I appreciated the authenticity and Harper and Ethan's commitment to each other, but she just seemed like she had a lot of restrictions for him. And it's just like, can the man live?
It was the ordering of the meals thing for me.
Thank
of like,
you.
Why do I have to ask if I can get white fish? How about we order separately? Like, why are we having to order together and then make this executive decision? I didn't understand that dynamic. I didn't have a favorite couple between the two, but I was definitely rooting for Harper and Ethan to figure their shit out throughout the season, right? Because there was the fact that they weren't having sex. There was the fact that it seemed like there was a spark that had diminished to a certain extent. And I wanted them to figure it out because I did like that. Even if you don't always have good days, even if your wife is critical, even if you are to a certain extent not as communicative as you need to be about certain things, Ethan.
Yes.
There's something good there. And there was something like honest there. Whereas for me, Daphne and Cameron lived in a web of lies, right?
And they enjoyed it.
They both thrived in the environment that they have created for their marriage, but they're not a couple that I could adamantly root for because I'm like, are somebody going to murder somebody in the future? Like, how is this going to go down? Because that may not be your son, sir.
House of Cards. When she showed her that picture of that blonde hair, blue eyed baby, I'm like, she knew exactly what she was doing.
Girl. And that was I literally had in my notes from that episode, I said, Daphne is diabolical.
Listen, and
diabolical.
Cameron, do you think he ever questioned the paternity?
I think the scene where he was coming out of the bathroom onto the FaceTime with the kids and he had a moment of pause and frustration, but like, do I really have to do this? Was also a tale that I think he knows that there's doubt. He knows that there could be a question.
Because I saw that agitation for sure.
I think that's what that was supposed to potentially indicate. Because again, they give this facade, and I think they do really still like each other, love each other, have great sexual chemistry, all of that. But beneath that, I think that Daphne may murder him in his sleep someday. Because when she kept saying throughout the season, like, you have to do what you have to do to make yourself feel better, to make yourself not feel like a victim of life. How long until Cameron does something that you're not going to have a fix for, and you're just going to kill that man in his sleep?
I never thought about murder per se, but
she gonna be on Snap, Delora. She gonna be on an episode of Snap. You can't keep pushing her buttons, because you could see when the facade would fade after revelations too. You would see it. You would see her face drop,
crumble,
and then she would put the smile back on and be like, you know what? I've already calculated in my head my get back on this. I've already calculated.
It's just not a way to live life for me personally, because the relationship was absolutely shallow. I'm like, this is House of Cards.
Yeah, like literally from the show. Could be a House of Cards marriage. They could have fit right in that world. So let's talk about the Harper Cameron situation that did or did not go down. So during a day away, literally a day and like a night away, the boys got into some things, including some hookers draws. Cameron specifically, but he chose to have sex in Ethan and Harper's room. So when Harper gets back, she found that condom wrapper and she was stewing on it for like a day before it finally came to the forefront, because she had it like sitting in the bathroom, and Ethan was like, all right, here's what happened. But Harper was like, I don't think Harper could really let that go. She had to get that get back, as Daphne kept saying. And so she went up to the room. Something may or may not have happened. When Ethan confronted her about it, she said, he kissed me. That was it. But he was having all sorts of fantasies about them getting it in. Delora, did they or didn't they?
I think they did. I don't think they had sex, but they definitely did some heavy petting. I definitely believe that. And again, because they don't lie to each other, the fact that they can see through each other's bullshit, I'm like, man, what are y'all doing? Cameron and Daphne are not worth it.
I mean, there are some very good looking people. So the temptation to climb this tree, that is Cameron.
James is one of my Hollywood crushes, and it's not, it actually wasn't even divergent for me. I don't know what it was, but when I found out he was a dick in the show, that was heartbreaking for me.
I told you wasn't going to like him. I'm so sorry. I told you he was not going to be someone you liked, but you can still have hate sex with people you don't like, right? So I feel like...
Time Traveler's Wife, he was lovely in that show.
Oh, I never watched the series. Yeah, I forgot. Because the movie, I boo-hooed on the movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Couldn't watch the show.
The show was decent. It was decent, but it wasn't picked up for a second season show. Shout out to him for having a contract with HBO. But yeah, something went down. I don't think he had the time to whip it out, but he would have. And he has a major problem. The fact that he's a bully. When they reveal that Cameron would steal Ethan's crushes before Ethan had the chance to say anything, I was like, this is not your friend. I don't understand male relationships sometimes, but that right there was unacceptable for me personally.
I also feel like we're too grown. Even if that was a dynamic when we were younger, I'm too grown now to still associate with people who would try to make me feel that way. Like, I feel like you are close to those people sometimes out of proximity, because we're in school together, whatever.
Proximity, exactly.
But I don't have to have, I'm rich. And you really brought me on here because you want to get into my pants money and business wise?
Listen, and he was like, she's my wife, not my fucking girlfriend.
I felt so satisfied. Again, guys, disclaimer, we do not condone violence on this podcast, but I was so satisfied with the ocean showdown. Like when he got that last lick in, I was like, yes.
Yes, Ethan. And Cameron's so diabolical. He laughed at the end of it. And honestly, Cameron was such a hoe. He was willing to stick his dick in Ethan. You remember that scene?
I think that he is a special person. And I think Cameron has a lot going on that we will never find out about. And maybe his wife will never find out about until he's murdered in the bed one morning.
And I say that in terms of him being attracted to Ethan, because I think he has like this borderline obsession over his success that he's just like, I want to take it. I want to take you. I want to, you know what I mean? Like,
it's dominating. Power. It's exactly. Like he wants to dominate him in every way possible. But the ultimate lick back for me with Ethan is that Daphne and Ethan fuck. It's heavily implied, so it's up for speculation, but I'm going to say
that
even more
at dinner.
Yep. Even more than the situation with Harper and Cameron, I am convinced, because Daphne, she wanted that leg back too. And so, hey, Ethan said, hey, you thought you had something going? I fucked your wife. Okay?
But it's like, why did he go all the way with Daphne when Harper claimed that it was just a kiss and heavy petting?
Because he was driving himself crazy. I think it's why. But my final question to you about these two couples, and we can move on to our next few characters, is by the end, both couples seem like they're in good places, and not just good. Harper and Ethan seem like they're in a better place than when the season started. So were these shenanigans better for their relationship or worse? Did it do more good inevitably than harm?
So with Cameron and Daphne, it was a Tuesday for them. So
Touche. Man,
I don't
she
think
probably
it made
didn't
a
fuck some of his.
difference.
She probably didn't fuck some of his coworkers. Honestly,
But when it came to Harper and Ethan, I was a little bit heartbroken because I'm like, you let this toxic ass couple infiltrate your relationship in such a way that y'all are doing things that you thought you never would do. So, yes, at the end, they found their spark, but to what cost? Because that tit for tat is not love. Of course, I'm thinking biblically, love is patient, love is kind. Like, what they were doing was vindictive and not based out of love. So I don't know what they say, the end justified the means or not. But me personally, I would prefer not to have all that entanglement. Like the Cameron again being so diabolical. He's like, monogamy was created for the wealthy and the powerful
to keep the middle class in check. And there's a lot to be said about monogamy in general, but that's what you vowed to do in your marriage.
In front of, I'm sure, a bunch of people, because again, Cameron and Daphne are showy ass people. So I know they had the best wedding at the best venue with the best food in front of the most important people.
Yeah. Can I just say too that Harper and Daphne had my favorite wardrobes in this season. There were some looks. Like I think there was
again Wednesday and her friend Eden.
Yeah, but there were some looks, like even I think there was like a white dress that Harper wore for like buttons and the sides cut out. And then I really like this one green dress she wore. Like they had my favorite outfits. And I was like, man, rich people. Where did y'all get these clothes? Love it.
It's so interesting. If anything, I probably like Harper's look a little bit more as she became more comfortable. Like obviously in the very beginning of the season, very, stringent black and, but she loosened up as the season went on, obviously, right?
I tell you too, I'm like, I got to set my wardrobe up when I go on vacation. I am so good for comfy these days. Like I do not be trying to serve a look necessarily on vacation. I'd be like, all right, let me just be in my athleisure. And they were like, I was like, maybe I need to pack some looks on a vacation, really put in some effort, but I don't have a wardrobe stylist on call. So anyway, let's move on, Delora, to Albie, Dominic, and Bert. Okay. This is a 3-generation father-son family coming to Italy, trying to connect with their familial roots, right? Because they have ties to Sicily. Like, I believe it's Bert's mother or grandmother packed up and moved out. So they wanted to come back and find their roots, the ancestors, the family tree, all those things. But along the way, there's a lot that comes out about these father-son relations, right? You got Bert, the old head, who's flirting and farting at every woman who walks his way. You got Dominic, who is a serial cheater and yet still is trying to create bridges to get back together with his wife after being caught for, I guess, the umpteenth time. So much so that the wife and the daughter chose not to come on this family trip. Only Albie, the son, did for whatever reason. Then you got Albie out here trying to find love. He thinks he's about to have a from scratch moment, Delora, because he's He's trying to wife every woman he can find on this resort.
What do you say? Wide-eyed and bushy-tailed.
So wide-eyed, so innocent, so sweet. What a dynamic. But let me ask you this. After multiple conversations, after we see a lot between the family, is Albie ultimately doomed to follow in his father and grandfather's footsteps?
I'd say after this particular vacation, it's looking pretty grim. However, I think there is still hope for Albie. I think there's still hope. Granted, what happened to him doesn't help things. Because again, it's like looking at Bert and Dominic. It's like, who hurt them? Like, do you just not like women, or women just disposable to you? Obviously, with the conversation specifically between Dominic and Bert, like, he's like, you thought you were discreet? You didn't think I saw my mama crying every night? Why didn't she leave? You and I as women know why she didn't leave. She didn't have the choice or the freedoms or the opportunities to leave, so she stayed. And that's also societal norms of and expectations that she would. That's why she didn't leave.
It broke my heart when Dominic was like, she died a bitter woman. And all Bert could reply was, I loved her and she loved me. It was also that level of like not taking accountability that it seemed like hopefully was going to change, because you have Bert who has that mentality. Then you have Dominic who's like, I know I fucked up. I know I need to do better. And then you have Albie who's like, y'all are trash and I don't plan to be anything like either of you.
What is the male term for a nymphomaniac? Because I felt like Dominic had a serious problem.
Yeah, or he was bored. Like, I don't know what his thing was that
we have all these negative connotations for a woman's sexuality, but when it comes to a man, like, hoe isn't heavy enough for me.
Well, I mean, he may have had a sexual addiction of some kind. We saw Dominic be another person who's utilizing the same hooker. Really, the first one who was utilizing this hooker, her name is Lucia in the show. We're going to talk about Lucia and Mia, her friend that she's dragged along on all her excursions. And the fact that he's coming here and he's talking all this game, and yet the first thing you did before you even got to town was find a hooker, because she was waiting for you to see what you looked like when you arrived, bro. So how are you trying to do better? And then when you're trying to do better with that, then you open up porn on the laptop. Like, I don't know what the psychology was with him, but it may be another person who has excess, because again, he was very wealthy as well. And do you just get bored? Is it just boredom, or is it really an addiction?
To quote Cameron again, the really successful people are horny.
Everybody's horny, but we don't all try to make these types of provisions to take care of it. Like, my guy, you found her on the internet before you even got to Italy. Like, that's wild. So Lucia ends up in a relations situation with old Albie. So Albie, being the innocent that he is, really thought that he had fucked around and fell in love. Albie thought he was about the pretty woman Lucia. Take her back to Los Angeles and make her an honest woman, Delora.
Shout out to Kiss Quotient, which is one of my favorite rom-com books of like all time. It's the backwards version of that. It's by Helen Hong, male escort with a female client. So Lucia is an actress, okay? Give her the Oscar for her performance.
She ran game on this dude. When I was watching it the first time, I didn't even think it was insincere. Like, I was like, oh, she really does like you. Maybe she really is looking to you to be someone she can have a life with. Silly me. I had that same mentality.
Binging it, I was suspicious, because I'm like, she's been floating around this hotel this whole time, and now she has this aggressive person. Like, when she showed up, her and her friend Mia had nothing to say about having a quote unquote pimp or whatever that wanted to control her. So I was like, I don't know about this.
Actor, friend that she had played the long game for this week that she was messing with this boy. It was masterful. Did you feel bad for Albie that she inevitably played him?
No, I don't. Because how can I put this? He should have, hopefully this is a wake-up call for him. His
Do you agree
dad
with
tried to
Dominic?
tell him. His
Yeah,
dad
he was
tried to
like,
tell him.
you cannot be this easy of a mark in life, son. You cannot be
You
this easy.
cannot. And I know,
50,000 euros he gave this woman off the
again, that's
back
a
of his mama.
lot. You have, common sense isn't all that common, Ashley. And that is something I've come to learn. And sometimes, I'm going to say this multiple times throughout this episode, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
I think he had watched one too many films. I think he was a rom-com lover. I think he had watched Pretty Woman and thought he was about to be Richard Gere, because you know that she's had multiple clients. You don't know about your daddy, but you know at least she was messing around with Cameron, because you saw that exchange and her needing her money from him. But you thought you were going to be the one to change her life. It was fascinating.
Oh, what I was alluding to with the stupid game, stupid prizes, I think that's what he gets for playing stupid games with Portia. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, that's what you get when you let your heart win. Shout out to Paramore.
Before we get to Portia real quick, I was just going to say I think I was on Team Albie in terms of being like, oh, you were just trying until you fucked around and put this woman over your own mother. Like when he agreed to put in a good word for his father, knowing his father still ain't shit, in order to get this money, this girl you'd only known for a handful of days over the woman who gave birth to you, you lost me.
He was thinking with his second head, Ashley. So
you lost me. You lost me.
And so then, in love.
Whatever. So then with Portia, the first young lady he connected with, who tossed him to the side for arguably, I don't know, I wasn't Team Jack, so I didn't really connect with him or find him attractive, but someone she found more attractive, because Portia wanted her.
Cute.
Portia wanted her an adventure. She didn't want this little nice boy. Why do you think that they reconnected by the end of the series? Was that a good idea? After all of the shenanigans and everything they both went through, why did they exchange numbers?
Because why not? I say that because their connection was the most authentic. And again, Portia got on my first and last nerves being so indecisive. But then I also was annoyed with Albie, because it's like, just because you connected with her doesn't mean you own her or possess her. And I'm like, he's also the type of guy who I went to Standard is his personality, apparently. He has nothing else to
He was
offer.
telling everybody he went to Stanford, didn't he?
I'm like,
first conversation, I went to Stanford.
Is that all? Does that encompass who you are? If not, you need to live a little bit more life then. I was frustrated again. A lot of the show, I was like, everybody's getting on my nerves. I don't know who I'm rooting for. But when it came to Portia and Albie, them reconnecting at the end, I think, what they say, sometimes you got to lean in your first instinct. I think that would have been a lot healthier and probably boring to watch as a viewer, but at least they would have prevented a lot of heartache.
I know, it was like we both got scarred up on this trip. Let's just go ahead and exchange numbers and come back hopefully to a more normal reality, because I mean, they went through it. But before we get to Portia's portion of the series with Tanya and all of that, let's talk about Lucia and Mia. So again, Lucia is a prostitute who has come to the hotel to be with Dominic initially. And then because Dominic's trying to be on a good foot, she has to find some other customers. She's dragging her friend Mia along. But Mia is an aspiring singer. So Mia kind of has her own motivations for stuff too. And they both end up using sex as the means to get what they want. Were they just playing the game? I mean, these girls the internet dubbed them, some people, their girls by the end of the season. So were they just playing the game? Were you rooting for them to get the things that they wanted?
In the beginning, I actually was rooting for them. I was under the impression that they're just trying to find their way in the world and they have each other. But to what extent, right? Mia drugging the Giuseppe and then
Accident.
Lucia.
That was an accident, though.
She could have been more thorough in identifying those drugs.
She could have
And
been.
then what Lucia did with running up Dominic's tab and playing Albie, it's kind of like, yeah, it's doing too much for me.
You know, there were moments where I had like indecisiveness about my feelings, particularly I think more with Mia than Lucia. Like I think Lucia came into this season much more confident, knowing who she was and what she was doing and what she was doing it
Yes,
for. And part of
that's
me
true.
felt like Mia was being dragged along, and while she had goals, she wasn't on the same page. And so it was like, are you just letting life happen to you, Mia? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, because
Why are you in
I
this
I thought she said that she
situation?
wasn't a prostitute, but then she started sleeping with people, and I'm like, well,
She wasn't.
are you or are you not?
She threw that drink in Giuseppe's face when he first,
True.
propositioned her, right?
Yep.
But then she started seeing the power that she inevitably got from that sexual currency. And she started using it. Remember the scene where Lucia was like, I've created a monster because Mia had
Yeah.
recognized and dived into that power. So I think by the end of the season, I was happy for both of them to move into the direction that they both were aspiring to go into, with Mia getting the opportunity to sing at the resort and being the main singer for that. And then you have Lucia, who got the money she needed to open up her own store. I think one thing that I gravitated towards about Mia too was when Mia had the situation with Valentina. Like, sure, Valentina gave her something that she wanted, but when she inevitably opened Valentina up to a sexual experience that she had been wanting, I felt like, well, there's a difference then. Like, you also are willing to help somebody, not
Compared to
use
Lucia,
somebody. Yeah.
who gave Albie the first one for free and ultimately decided to
Play that long game.
go for the goal. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't mad at either of them. Like, I do chalk it up to the game. Like, Lucia told y'all up front, I'm a prostitute and I have sex for money. So if you're willing to pay me for that service, then that is what it is. But I did have moments where at first with Mia, I was like, I don't know if this is the life for you. And then by the end, I was like, okay, you're wielding your sexual energy as you choose to. You also had this very nice moment with Valentina. Appreciate you for that. And yeah, y'all keep it moving. Do y'all thing, live y'all life. Let's talk about Valentina. So Valentina is the manager director of the resort. She lacked so much tact to me when the season first started.
I didn't like her at all because of that. I was like, are you in charge?
When
How?
she told Tanya she looked like Peppa Pig, I was like, bro, like you're just
Exactly.
rude. Like you're just
Yes.
rude. She told Bert, she was like, I'm surprised you made it here. This is a long trip and you're old.
She rubbed me the wrong way for sure.
I think what I ended up realizing is you just needed some good sex. Like you're so sexually frustrated. That's why you even saw her dynamic with a lot of men, because we don't know her sexual experience had been like leading up to that, but what she
Right.
wanted, she had never gotten. So I think there was like some animosity that she had towards the men we saw her interact with. And like I said, she just needed, because once she got that good sex, she was much nicer to old Rocco. She welcomed him back to the front desk. Hopefully
But
she gets some
what
sex in the future.
I thought was fascinating was the young lady that, again, I wasn't really clear on her sexuality until much later, which was intentional. But when Isabella walked up to her to compliment her and the way she was like borderline possessive over her, I was like, oh my gosh, like, has no one ever shown you any type of love? I mean, come to find out, no, right?
Not the love she wanted.
Exactly. Her evolution it was fun to watch in terms of it, like it helped explain a lot, right? Because yeah, definitely Oscar the Grouch.
All right, let's move on to our final group of characters to discuss for the season. Woo! Tanya, Greg, Quentin, Portia, and Jack. So Tanya and Greg are the characters who are the through line from season 1 because they met in season 1 at the White Lotus in Maui. But by season 2, they're married. They had just met and just like went out for the first couple of times. We see them at the airport together to end season 1. So for season 2, okay, we're married now. Greg had health issues in season 1. Now he seems healthy and looking good and all of that. But they don't seem like their relationship is necessarily a great one. Greg seems constantly annoyed with Tanya. Granted, Tanya is a lot.
That is the understatement of the year.
I know.
All I could say was she is effing obnoxious.
Yeah. I despise Tanya. I'm gonna be honest. I despise her character.
I'm so
she's
glad
a lot.
I'm not alone.
Because she's very self-involved. She's very needy and she's very aggravating with her behavior as a result. Like, one assumes that by a certain age, you're able to channel that energy and that behavior. And because I think of Tanya's entitlement and being rich, she's never had to, because life humbles you. And yes, Tanya does get humbled throughout the season, but she still has a lot of privilege in the position she holds. And so she's like a toddler sometimes with her behavior. The way she would throw these little fits, have these breakdowns when like Greg's like, I got to go for a couple of days for work. Her crying scenes, I wanted to throw something at the TV. Like, you are a grown woman. Please get it together.
It was awful.
It was very cringy.
Treated her assistant. It was like, no, hide. He doesn't want to see you. Is she disposable?
The way that she told her when she was like, oh, I think I want to take a nap, but don't leave. Stay in the room. Can you just go sit on the couch? She treated people. She used people, I guess is the best way to say it, in my opinion. And that carries over from season 1. In season 1, Natasha Rothwell's character, Belinda, was the spa manager. She used her in her loneliness. And then once she met Greg, she disposed of her. And she had promised to work with her on a business because Belinda wanted to open up her own spa, her own wellness center. She made Belinda cry. She made Natasha's character cry by the end of the season because she pulled out of wanting to partner with her on this business.
Wow.
Yeah. So Tanya ain't my fave, but enter Quentin and his nephew, quote unquote, Jack, who are British and are staying in Palermo. They've been staying there for a while. Quentin rather has a villa. It comes from wealth, all this and that. Wine them, dine them, want to throw a party in Tanya's honor, all this and that. I have literally, be careful what you wish for. Because remember, Portia wanted an adventure. She sure gets one when she gets entangled with Jack. And I feel like Tanya was always seeking companionship. And she damn sure got that from Quentin.
She sure did.
So we already talked about, did you like Tanya? But how quickly did you discover that Quentin did not have good intentions?
I knew he didn't have good intentions when he started talking about killing for beauty. I thought that was odd. Also, I felt like he was gassing her up from the beginning. Like, I don't know if I felt like I would have been able to say, like, oh yeah, Tanya's wealthy just solely by looking at her. But in media, whether television, movies, books, there is this thing of like the European grifter almost, right? Like, you have access to people with titles and wealth, but you yourself are cash poor, right? And the way he started flattering her, I was like, it seems a bit targeted a little bit. I did get that vibe because I just was unsure. But they played it so well because him having his quote unquote nephew along to keep Portia busy, I didn't see that coming. Although I never fully trusted Jack either.
Once you have the scene where Jack is fucking Quentin.
I mean, it's a recap, obviously. But
that was so shocking, Delora, when the show was airing. It was so shocking.
I knew something was up before we got to that explicit scene, though. When they were there at night and he was like, oh, I got to do something for my uncle. I was like, nope, I don't trust it. And then again, really, Tanya, how long was she going to stand there? I'm like, do you want to get caught? You don't know these people. And that's another thing I kept saying while watching it. It's like when it came to anybody, really, y'all don't know these people.
That is for damn sure. I've never taken a trip and then felt comfortable going off on my own with anyone. I don't care if it's a group of people. I don't care if it's one person. Like, I definitely think they got way too comfortable with them way too quickly. And I think Tanya, for her, it was like, oh, to her point, he has wealth, so he's not going to try to take advantage of me. You don't know anything about him. And so once she picked up that picture of him and what looked to be her husband, Greg, I was like, oh my God, he's trying to kill you, right? Because this is a devious plot that is unfolding.
I'm not gonna lie. Before the Greg revelation, I was convinced that she was gonna be like sacrificed for some type of weird cult shit. I really did. It just was very. I don't know what season 1 was like, but the zoning in on these ancient pictures, and
it's a tone. It's a weird tone.
It was a weird vibe. And then when she seeks out spiritual help with the psychic, I'm like, so you're gonna kick this woman out before she got a chance to tell you what she saw? You brought her in. The psychic
warned you. She said Greg is in love with somebody else, and then you could clearly see she was in distress by the end. She was probably about to tell you, you're about to die.
Could die. Exactly. But she didn't want to hear it. And it's like, is that what it's like to be rich? Where it's like, oh, I'll just stick my head in the sand.
I'll tell you one thing
I don't want to hear.
I'll tell you one thing that's eerie from season 1 to season 2, and why I should have known that Tanya was not going to make it through this season is in season 1, when she meets Greg, she literally says, death is the last immersive experience that I have not been through yet.
Yep.
Foreshadowing. So that whole scene on the boat, when by the time she talks to Portia, and that's the reason why Jack had kidnapped Portia and taken her phone and didn't want them to connect, because once they connected those dots, I was like, how are you going to get out of this situation, Tanya? So when she got the gun, she starts shooting everybody, and it seemed like, oh, she's going to make it, right? And she slips and falls and hits her head on that damn boat and drowns. I was devastated when I saw it for the first time. I was like, you got to be kidding. Like, there's no way she's going out like this. And it's not, again, I despise Tanya, but for one, that was fucked up. And for two, Greg is about to get all that money.
I was like, is Greg the only one winning out of this season?
Yes. Now he's winning and losing because his love just died.
Yeah.
So,
but I literally said when she slipped and fell, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Are you this much of, like, again, obnoxious. It just constantly was going through my mind whenever she showed up on screen. And I'm like, you are such a fucking idiot.
Why didn't you leap off the boat like old dude did, who you didn't get a chance to shoot?
I think she had shoes on still, or
she had on heels.
Like that.
She had on heels.
I'm
but
like,
there's always
when do you take off your shoes?
There's usually a ladder too to get down to that smaller boat. So I just think it was devastating to me when I saw it for the first time. I was like, I know y'all ain't about to let it go down like this. I know y'all ain't about to let it go out like this. But what I told you before we started recording is then because I did rewatch the first season again, justice for Belinda. Like I did not want Tanya to necessarily die, but Mike White gave you some karma for that ass, baby. Because again, you've used people. I think Tanya is a user. You died in the ultimate scheme of usury. And that's some karma for your ass, baby. Woo! What would you have done if you were Portia? Because Jack drops her by the airport, says, don't be stupid.
First of all, that whole interaction was terrifying. And again, that's what you get. You should have just went to Albie, but I feel like she was so indecisive, like, oh well, he's like a nice guy and I can have fun with someone like a Jack. Oh,
She
what
wanted
fun
somebody
she had.
she wants somebody to get her heartbeat racing. He got it.
I
He
also
did it.
felt like she felt comfortable with Jack because he was similar to her of like not knowing what she wanted to do with her life. And, Albie, she probably felt like she felt insecure interacting with him and she just went for the safer, crazier option. But I knew he took her phone. I knew that. I knew he was keeping her back for some reason. Like I saw how they were intentionally separating Tanya and Portia, and all I kept thinking was, y'all just met these people and y'all are going separate ways already. Like I need somebody to be with me. Like I was scared when Tanya was in that room by herself before her Italian stallion, showed up. Cause I'm like, how we know he's not gonna lock her in there?
Mm-hmm. And Quentin
And
got you
again,
doing random drugs and
oh
getting
my
some strange
gosh,
dick.
exactly. Anyway, I think Jack felt guilty and was trying to salvage what he had done up until that point. But if I were her, I would have gone for the plane. I would have called back to the White Lotus and checked up on Tanya. But
Well, she said she was trying to call her and she wasn't answering the phone. And then when Albie tells her people were found dead, I think she knew the answer to what had happened. But it's just like when you put on the glasses, and the hat, are you a fugitive?
I would have gone to the airport, not because I wouldn't have cared for Tanya, but at that point, I would have trusted what Jack had to say.
I think being in a foreign country, I definitely am trying to get home. That's my first priority. I don't want to stay here. I need to go home.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry. I'm going to get it figured out, but I got to get out of here first. I got to get back to the United States of America, and then I can deal with whatever else comes, because that was very scary. And I didn't know what Jack was capable of, especially when the facade broke. It was like, oh, girl. Because as soon as I couldn't find my phone, I'm not laying back in the bed with you and you're not holding me hostage in the bed. Like, oh, we getting this figured out. If I gotta go, where's the closest store? Like, I gotta get a new phone right now. And I think that was something that bothered me about Portia. She got really passive in a lot of scenes that I needed her to be a little more gung-ho about. So hopefully Portia made it and is fine. But they also could say, oh, no loose ends. I mean, Greg is very rich now. So Portia, watch your back, baby. You was on payroll. He has all your info. So give me any final thoughts you have about the White Lotus season 2 adventure in Italy.
Everybody needs Jesus, Well,
you see what they did in the chapel. So
I was like, not in the chapel.
At least she said, hey, I can't look up at the ceiling during this. Like, we got to find a new position. So,
but again, who knows what priests and nuns have done in chapel.
Facts. Them's the facts, kids.
Humanity is something. It's complex. And our human brains want to put everything in nice, neat folders, but it's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
And I felt that for a lot of these interactions. I'm interested to see who's going to roll over to season 3. I feel like White Lotus gives me the same vibes as Knives Out movies in terms of, different casts, high profile people, and shenanigans.
Shenanigans ensue. What do you think the theme may be? If we've done money, we've done sex. What is there to do for season 3 theme, you think?
Well, Mike already said in one of those bonus scenes, religion, spirituality, and death. So I wonder what that's going to look like. So it's very interesting concepts. And this one definitely was very juicy.
Yeah, sure. I feel like if we do religion, maybe it should be more Bali than Thailand, but we'll see what happens. Girl, I did not get a chance to rewatch those in scene, behind the scenes things. I tried one and I kept having my issues. So I said, okay, never mind. I'm not gonna worry about it. I think that this season was a hell of a ride. Like I said, to me, it was more interesting and had me more on the edge of my seat than season 1 did. And so I'm super curious to see what season 3 is going to be all about. And if these lush landscapes we get are any indication, I'm going to try to go on a vacation very quickly thereafter because I'm getting serious FOMO looking at these beautiful beaches
Gorgeous,
and this beautiful water.
But what I will say to you, Ashley, is, was that a live volcano erupting while they were there? Because to me, I was like, okay, this is another white person vacation as well. It's like we see active lava from this volcano. We're like, let's go to the beach.
Indicative of the tone, I think, more than anything, than that for them to be concerned about anything. Just supposed to add that extra layer of tension to everything. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how many Emmys they win. We'll see what happens with season 3. But guys, thank you.
Who deserve the awards in your opinion? Because these supporting actors and actor categories are stacked with them.
There's no one person that I have some strong opinion about in terms of deserving an award for this. I think it was a lot of continuity for me with the whole cast in terms of like their acting and playing off of each other and all of that. Yeah. So there's not just one. I mean, I think Jennifer Coolidge is likely going to win just because of the craziness that her character ultimately goes through.
I didn't enjoy her at all, though.
Yeah, but in terms of acting, I think she has a great shot of winning again because she won for season 1 as well.
But was it a lot of acting on her part in terms of like her character?
She would probably be even more annoying to you in season 1 because she was like depressed when she first got there. Again, she depended heavily on Belinda. Belinda's an employee, yet you're forcing her to go to dinner with you every night so you're not alone. And it was a lot. So it's a through line of her character that you would notice. But yeah, okay. I don't have any standout favorites. So we'll see what happens. But again, guys, that is the recap. We thank you for joining us for this. Hopefully you enjoyed season 2 and looking forward to season 3. Delora, let's wrap ourselves out with our hidden gems as usual. What you got for the people?
So I have 2, and they were originally for our last recap, The Perfect Find. Check out that recap. We had Dem Black Mamas on with us to talk about that movie. And The Perfect Find is written by the lovely, the talented Tia Williams. And I wanted to highlight a book that I did read from her. It's called 7 Days in June. And man, oh man, it came out June 1st, 2021. It is on Reese Witherspoon's book club and an instant New York Times bestseller. Again, it's a romance novel, it's contemporary literature, it's Black love. It's not a rom-com in terms of like everything's happy-go-lucky. Oh no. Oh no. There's a lot of drama and some tension. And it is just literally one of my favorite books from last year. So I wanted to highlight the author that wrote the novel for like one of our last recaps. So my next hidden gem is an album. It is by a beautiful singer. Her name is RAYE. She is young and she is doing the damn thing. She has her album, My 21st Century Blues. She is a vibe. She is a songwriter. She plays instruments. She's immensely talented. Some of my favorite songs off this album: Oscar-winning Tears, Black Mascara is my jam, Escapism, and 5-Star Hotel. Love, love, love. And Bust It Down. Bust It Down is actually quite hilarious. So I highly recommend you all checking it out. What I love about this album is diverse in its sound. So like Black Mascara is giving you a techno vibe, but like 5-Star Hotel is more R&B. So she has she runs the gamut in terms of genre, and she's immensely talented. So Ray, you spell it RAYE. All right, Ashley, what do you have?
All right, I have three. First one is the Small Doses with Amanda Seales podcast, the Tabitha Brown episode in particular. I stayed up late one time watching it on my phone on YouTube, and I love Tabitha Brown. I love this collaboration. It was a really good conversation. There was so much that I learned about Tabitha and her journey that I just did not know about. And I just appreciated like that insight into some of the things she's gone through, including like some racial experiences she had. And it was a good interview. So I encourage everybody to check that out. I know she just released some additional episodes recently that I may listen to, like with Big Sean and some other things.
I always listen to Small Doses. It's actually one of my favorite podcasts. Amanda Seales does a good job on it.
Very nice. I also love the set. It was very cute. She wore color for Tabitha. Okay, my second one is Kevin Hart Reality Check. This is on Peacock. This is his latest stand-up. I always enjoy Kevin's stand-up more than his films, and this was not an exception. I enjoy his style and his approach, and I'm also watching the heart-to-heart interviews that he does weekly as well and enjoying those. So I'm just in a little bit of a Kevin Hart mode in terms of my entertainment right now on Peacock. So definitely check out the stand-up and check out the heart-to-heart episodes. And then my last one is a series on Hulu called Class of '09. What happens when AI takes over the FBI? This series tackles that by following a group of recruits in the past, present, and future. You have folks like Kate Mara in this cast, and it to me was just really interesting. Like some shows that try to deal with like time jumps don't always make it clear where you are, and I think this show did a good job about keeping those lines clear and you always knowing where we are and kind of where we're going. And the dynamic between the cast I enjoyed as well. And the messaging, because AI obviously is a big thing right now and everybody's talking about it and worried about it. So I just thought it was really good and unexpected because I just found it on Hulu. I wasn't looking for it. So I definitely encourage everybody to check that series out. And that is it, guys. That is all. We are done. We're getting out of here, but stick with us. Come back for our next episode. Share this episode with friends, family, loved ones, whoever. We appreciate y'all as always. Delora, love you very much. Thank you so much.
Love you, Ashley. Bye.